Hello and welcome everyone to What a Week. I'm Terry Martin and I'm your host. And of course, I'm not here alone. I have my two guest hosts with me, Mr. C and Tony. Say hi.
Hey. Good afternoon, everybody. Big up, big up, big up, big up. Yes. Good to see you.
This is the squad. This is the strong squad. We're here to talk about what's going on this week. And of course, we're all in our homes because of our friend called Rona, right?
Rona. Yes.
And your friend, Mr. C?
Not my friend, not my friend. She's the enemy.
No, in general though, how is everyone's, how are you all feeling about this isolation situation?
I don't even know.
It's a new way of life, isn't it? It's a behavioral change. I think a lot of people are gonna struggle. What are we into week 2 already?
Yeah.
And people are complaining. I mean, besides the obvious, which is many have lost their jobs or they can't work. It's a question of how do you live your life like this when you're pretty much in some form of confinement. So I wouldn't imagine it's going to be easy for most people.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. C?
Well, this is.
So Mr. C's experiencing some technical difficulties at the moment.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was just me, actually.
No. He's probably technical at the moment. Maybe he's about to say something the government don't like, so they've just cut him off.
They cut him off. They know how Mr. C's like. He's got no filter.
Right. No filter. They're going to filter him.
Yeah, we'll come back to him, definitely. So, all right, in this time, I think that people are going to pick up new habits. What do you think? It's a time to pick up a new habit? It's a time to explore new things, or what is this time going to be used for?
I think people are still in denial. I think they're still trying to overcome the shock that their world has changed overnight.
Yeah.
So, you might have money in your pocket, but you've got nowhere to go. You can't spend it, and you're stuck at home. Yeah. And a lot of people's lives really revolved around the outside, around having hobbies. You go to the gym, you go to the pub, you go wherever. And now that you're stuck at home, I think they haven't sort of worked out the fact that this is long term. They haven't acknowledged that in their own minds.
Yeah.
I think they're currently just struggling to find a way to deal with this. So there are a lot of things you can do, but I think you just have to acknowledge the fact that some government advisors are even saying that this could last up to a year. So I think getting that around our heads is probably the first thing we need to do before we can start really working out a lifestyle.
Yeah, I personally think it's about taking it a day at a time, because one could really overwhelm their brain and everything if you start thinking about a year from now and the world still being in this state. I think taking it a day at a time is definitely the first step. What about you, Mr. C? What do you think?
Oh, listen, man, I think you're right there saying taking it one day at a time, because at the moment, one day is coming like 1 week to me. So I wake up, all my body clock is messed up. I don't even know what day is it today. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I don't even know. Listen, all I know is 2020, the worst year ever for creative arts, man. Everything is on lockdown. You know what I mean? We've got no shows, we've got no gigs, we've got no workshops. You know what I mean? Hard to pick up potatoes, hard to pick up plenty of things. It's hard to pick up.
Yeah.
You can't go outside for nothing again.
Honestly.
So yeah, man, it's difficult. So one day at a time, I think you've got to really take it. And as you rightly said, this is where it challenges you now to find new things to do with yourself.
So what are you going to do? You're self-employed, Mr. C, yeah? You're self-employed.
Well, I was one of those people who was buying plenty of toilet paper.
The annoying person.
No, I was buying it because the amount of tears me cry. Oh my gosh. I had work fully booked. Last week I was supposed to be in Switzerland doing some corporate work, workshops, so many trips abroad, holiday trips abroad, not even holiday, working trips abroad. It's all gone. But you know what?
Your job is about working with people. Fully.
It sure is. It sure is. And what this has taught me is that, you know, there's a lot of things what I've been saying that I should be doing. And I've always said, oh, well, you know, when I get a space in my diary, when I get a little gap in my diary, well, the creator just said, you want space, you want gap in your diary. See, that's everything gone. Everything gone.
Everything love.
Yeah. So,
well, I just seen a message. Well, I just saw a message from someone saying that I can't stand to be at home with my wife and my kids. Oh dear, to be stuck at home for this person is going to be a hard job. So, what advice are we giving to them people, Tony? People at home with their family, they're not used to it, being around their family this intensively. What could we say to them?
Well, first of all, we sympathize. I mean, if you think about it, right, we're not really meant to be at home with our families 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Normally, we go out to work for 8 hours, don't we? Or and we have some type of hobby, and then we come home, and then, you know, we deal with family situations. But if you're dealing with that for a whole day, and then you've got to entertain the kids because they want entertaining, right? You can't have, if you've got 2 or 3 kids, especially if they're young children, running around the house. I mean, it can be quite difficult. And so I think what that means is, first of all, take advantage of the fact that the government says that you can go out, right? You can go, you know, to the park for your exercise if they're young ones, of course. If you're older, take advantage of the fact that you can go out and go for a walk and get that exercise, because that's very important. Being locked up in your house actually does affect your mental health. Yeah. So you need to make sure you take advantage of the fact that currently we can leave the house. And that's very important, because as we're soon going to see, and we heard Boris Johnson sort of hint at it, things are going to get a lot tougher with regard to the restrictions.
Yeah, I heard that you're not even soon. They're going to cap it down that you can only go 2 kilometers from your house for your exercise now. So you're not going to be able to just go to local park and stuff, because the weather's been beautiful. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people have been taking the mick, like just congregating in the park, enjoying in the thousands. And I think they're going to crack down on that soon. But let's hope people start listening, because otherwise this thing could go on for longer than what we definitely expect. I know one thing that I've definitely seen an up on is using different apps. There's an app called Hangout. Have you guys heard about this app called Hangout? Or House Party Hangout, sorry.
Oh, yes. Well, this is where multiple people online and you can chat. I think there's someone called Zoom as well, I believe.
Zoom. I feel like that's a more corporate one, but House Party Hangout is where you can go and basically just enter people's conversations, and you all have a video call together. Right. And you can even play games together. Right. And another app everyone's been using is TikTok. Have you heard of TikTok?
I've seen the advert for it. I've never tried it.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. C? Have you heard of the app TikTok?
Yes, I have it. I've looked on it around about 3 times. There's pure stupidness on there. I come off it, man. I ain't got time for that.
You was on it. Come on.
I'm a grown man. I ain't got no time for TikTok. I'm looking for TikTok. That's what I'm looking for. I want something to keep my breath mini fresh.
That was a recommendation by Mr. C.
I've seen people of all ages on TikTok, to be honest, and it's quite a funny platform. So I thought you would have got involved, Mr. C. Like.
No, I have seen some funnies on there. My good comedy sister Tanya Moore, she did one the other day, which it had me in stitches, man. I was crying, absolutely crying, when she's talking to certain toys that she's using now because she's in isolation. So isolation got her so mad that she's actually talking to certain toys that she's using. So it was hilarious, man. Yeah, that is funny. What about you, Tony? Have you heard from any other significant others that you haven't heard from recently?
Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? All of a sudden, I'm getting these texts and these little memes saying, "Hope you're coping in this difficult time."
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, come on, lady. You weren't calling me or texting me when everything was good, when your money was nice and you're going out, putting on your nice dress and going out and meeting man. Now you're locked down. You can't wear that dress no more. Your money's not. You're thinking about life. You don't know how long this lockdown. All of a sudden, Tony, let me text him and see what he's doing.
Oh,
no, I saw that text. I ain't responding to you.
Oh dear.
I'm not responding to you.
Also, a lot of people are taking up fitness. I haven't seen so many online fitness videos before in my life. Like literally my live on my Instagram is always going off. There's someone doing an at-home workout. Have you guys been working out? That's my question.
I've been working out. I've been doing a run from like my bedroom to the fridge. Yeah, and that's really kept me kind of, you know, trim and everything, you know, seeing looking in the fridge, see what they're there for now, and then I do some weight training, carrying it back to my bedroom for it. That's what I've been doing. What about yourselves?
No, I try to just have a walk. I'm currently going out every other day. So when I do that, okay. I do walking for a couple of miles, but nothing serious. I'm not in the mood for anything strenuous right now. But they have said that this lockdown will probably increase the weight of the British population. You know what I mean?
It's going to increase the population as well.
Yeah. Because of course, what do? It's funny how people, when they're bored, they'll go and eat. You know?
So 9 months from now, we're expecting a whole horde of new pick-me there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, let's talk about the fear mongering that's been happening across all medias. I don't know if you guys have noticed it. Do you think it is a thing, or do you think that's just people trying to share information, or do you think we're all living in fear now?
Oh, definitely fear mongering. Definitely fear mongering. I mean, I've said to my friends, look, you don't even need to have the TV on to know what's going on. Somebody's going to tell you. Your WhatsApp groups are going to be posting all the latest conspiracy theories. You know, all the fear mongering you want is available to you. I've seen people I know on WhatsApp frightened because of, you know, what's going to happen, what might happen, the 4,000 beds at Excel, am I going to end up in there? And my thing is, stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Stop watching the news. You know, can you imagine this, right? On any given day, you're at home all day. So when you finally decide to put the TV on, you watch the headlines, right? Then you watch the segments that go in depth to the headlines.
Yeah.
And then you watch the same thing for 3 times in the night, the very same thing.
Yeah.
Well, what happens to you when you go to bed? And I'll tell you what happens when you go to bed. It's what happened to my friend. The next day, my man ran out and went panic shopping. And he's a guy who's normally very calm. And he found himself, you know, going into Asda or whatever and arguing with people over stuff on the shelves. And that's what it does to you. It weakens you, and it basically allows you to be malleable. Yeah. Whenever the media say something, you're in a state where you're going to comply.
Yeah.
You're going to comply.
Well, listen,
that's what they want.
Mr. C?
Have
we lost him again?
We lost him again.
Yeah.
But you know, but that point is that fear mechanism is you can see it all the time. It's just that whenever you're watching a news item, ask yourself, what emotion do they want from me right now? Do they want me to be happy? Do they want me to be hopeful? I mean, we've heard recently that China's getting this stuff under control, but we're not hearing this on the news, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're hearing about all these Cuban doctors that are going throughout Europe, you know, using their skills and expertise to help all these countries. We're not hearing about that. What we're hearing is this could get worse. Mortuaries are getting bigger. We're building a 4,000 bed center at Excel. And you keep watching that, it affects your psyche. It's gonna affect what you do.
Of course.
And you know, science has said that once you are in a place of fear, your immune system is already weakened. So guess what?
Yeah. Mr. C?
Yeah, no, I'm ready, man. I try not to take up too much of what I read on the news, but when I go to Tesco, I'm prepared. I got my things there. Nobody's getting near me at all. Nobody come near me, you know. Nobody coming near me at all. I'm ready for them. Move away from the toilet paper, Granny.
What it must be like to be in quarantine with you, Mr. C. I can't even imagine having any fear in my body when you're just busting too much joke all the time. I love it. I love the energy, to be fair. But Mr. C, let's talk about conspiracy theories, because obviously they're coming out left, right, and centre. Boom, boom, boom. What is any conspiracy theory that you have heard recently where you thought, shut up, that is absolute nonsense? Or, you could have a point there. Have you heard any?
I'll start with you have a point there. Obviously, the 5G, man. It's
the 5G.
I've been watching a lot about 5G from a few years back, to be honest with you. And again, I've noticed how things are being rolled out across the world. So like, again, smart meters, for example, the introduction of smart meters and now 5G. I've seen one or two bits and pieces with 5G as regards to how it has an effect on the human body, the structure of the human body, the DNA of the human body. And again, you know, we hear...
Is that right?
Sorry?
Does it cause cancer?
It causes cancer. It depletes the oxygen. So yeah, it has a dramatic effect on, because literally they're saying 5G is almost it's almost in the term of warfare. It's like a weapon. So that's what the military was using it for first and foremost. These are the theories anyway, whether they're truthful or not. But I think there's definitely a question to be asked: is how safe is 5G? And you know that hasn't been done. We've seen trials in America, for example, where they've been asking the telecommunications people, have you conducted?
Are we losing you?
Yeah, I think just on that note there, I think a few days ago, the president of the United States signed a bill where they're rolling out 5G nationwide in America. And I think some of the citizens there are quite concerned about that. And their feeling is that the reason why they're under lockdown is in order for this stuff to be put up and under our noses. But what I find so interesting, this reminds me a lot of, for those of us who were alive 20 years ago when we were looking at 9/11, this sort of situation allows new laws to come in.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, police powers and security and intelligence that basically will never get rolled back once things go back to normal.
Yeah.
So all the airport scanners that were brought in, all the X-ray machines and stuff that were brought in because exactly. So we know this earlier this week there was a Coronavirus Act on Monday that was basically approved by the House of Parliament, and basically that increases the powers of the police and health workers and so on. And you can imagine who the police are anxious to sort of try that, which people they're anxious to try their powers out on.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. C, do you want to continue with what you were saying?
Yeah, no, I was saying that in America there was a review as regards to have they conducted any health tests on 5G, and there was none going on at all, which kind of makes you think that there's something else going on with it.
Yeah, definitely something.
Yeah.
Tony, what about any? Tony, what about any stories you've heard recently where you just think that conspiracy is just out of this land, ridiculous?
Here's a great one. There is a flu-like virus going around, which kills less people than the flu or influenza, but we've got to lock down the whole world.
Yeah, there you go.
How's that for conspiracy theory?
It's getting wild.
I mean, nobody's got to be in denial. We can see what's happening, right? But the question is, are we being told a full story?
No,
we're worried about, and I think, and black people in general, you know, our whole history is one of conspiracy, right? Yeah. We've been conspired against for 400 years. So why should we more than any other people are always suspicious when we hear stories that don't kind of match up?
It's not so much suspicious. Is that we know when something just not right. That not right.
Yeah.
Like the whole coronavirus. Yeah, they're saying that this has been here for so long. Yeah. How comes it's never had no big outbreak before?
Yes.
That's because somebody must have been tampering something they shouldn't have been tampering with. But the way how it spread across the world so quickly and so rapidly, nah, mate. No, Ebola was supposed to be more deadly than this. And Ebola, it was contained. So I don't understand how this has got as far reaching as it has so quickly. It's just, to me, something doesn't add up to me.
And the interesting thing is that there are leading scientists in different countries around the world which disagree with the government's findings about how bad this can get, right? But obviously their voices have been snuffled because obviously they're not playing with the mainstream narrative. So you're not seeing them being interviewed about what their opinions are. And there's this week in the Mail, in fact, there were two interesting articles by the journalist called Peter Hitchens, where he questioned he questions why are we having this great panic for something basically that's not proven to basically be able to spread with wildfire as the government claims. And he's been receiving a lot of ridicule for his article, but he makes some very interesting points about the fact that basically a few scientists have said that the model that the government uses to calculate the numbers that might die is erroneous, because it's basically numbers they punch into a computer, and the computer says that based upon the numbers that you've put in here, these are numbers that we think are going to die. Therefore, the government is acting on that, and so that's also part of the problem. And as Mr. C said, Black people are more like, if something don't look right, somebody's lying somewhere.
And do you think Mr. C is going to get worse before it gets better? Like, what do you think? Where are we now, in your mind, at this epidemic? Is it going to get even worse than this? What's happening now? Oh dear, it's frozen again. What do you think we're going to get worse before we get any better?
You're not thinking about what's going to happen with this, because when I first heard about the coronavirus, I thought, this is going to blow over in a couple of weeks. Now, the way how things are going, it's like every week is something completely different. So I'm just going to let nature, so-called nature, take its course and see what happens. But, back in my mind, I was thinking, no, this can't last any longer than around about probably 4 to 5 weeks maximum. But people are talking about the end of the year. So we just have to watch and see now. We just watch and see.
Tony, what's your thought?
I think at least 6 months, because all the major sporting events, schools, and everything else has been pushed to September. Will it get worse? We don't know. The Prime Minister last week looked into the camera and said, some of us may lose our loved ones. In other words, some of you will die. We're not putting 4,000 beds in Excel and extending the mortuaries at some of these hospitals for nothing. Somebody's got to go in there. So, unfortunately, it may well get worse. I think this is going to change the way we live. If we come out the other side, it's never going to be as it was before.
Do you think it's going to help to heal the environment, though? All this slowing down of everything, because they said, there's certain fish that are showing up in certain waters now, and all of that, because obviously the world has come to a bit of a stop. So do you think that's a positive that will come out of it on the other side?
Quite a few positives. Yes, that's one of them. I think also we've been having freakish weather around the world in different places. But like you said, fishes are returning back to the oceans, and nature seems to. I can't confirm or deny that. I know that some of this stuff is happening, but on a social level around the world, we're going to have to just get used to a new type of behavior.
I think also that some people's hygiene is going to be a lot better. What do you think?
Some
people that obviously were not using toilet roll before, they weren't using antibacterials, and they weren't using hand sanitizers before. Now they've got a whole load. So what? We're looking at cleaner people, better smelling people.
Well, what we'll have to do when this all clears, we have to go on the rush hour, on the underground rush hour at peak times and take a sniff.
Take a sniff.
You know what's really interesting though, that this.
Go on, Tony.
We're losing you.
Okay, you're right now. We can hear you now. Go on.
No, I'm saying go on, Tony. He's going to make a point.
No, just a quick one. This whole idea about now we're being told to wash our hands, right? And how to wash our hands 20 seconds. Do you actually know that this actually has a history in this country? Because in Victorian times, it was actually fashionable that you didn't wash. Right? You can look it up. Right? So it was quite fashionable that the stinkier you were, the more in vogue in style that you were, and people used to put clean clothes on stinky body, right? I remember growing up when I was a youth, and I had this shirt on which I had as a boy, and I wore it the day before to school. My mum just said to me, "Boy, you're coming like an Englishman," and I never understood
what that meant.
But when you look at the history was that, but early in sort of late 1800s, early 1900s, it was fashionable not to wash. You see, and actually the hygiene standard in this country sits on that narrative, believe it or not, because a lot of the things that we do today come from the past, and that actually was a part of British life that you didn't wash.
Yeah. Yeah, they said that. I mean, people of our culture and stuff came over here and taught them how to wash, isn't
Right.
it?
Right.
Taught them hygiene. So
Right.
we're looking forward to maybe fresher smelling people, but at the same time, as I've just seen a message, some people are using this time not to wash because there's nowhere to go.
Well, listen, why are you wasting good soap and water? You're not going nowhere. Yeah.
Trying to keep the bills down, water rates down. Yeah.
We got to hope that coronavirus is like Caribbean and African people. Because if you come into certain people, and it smell frozen, man. Let me go outside, go find somebody else.
Right. Also, what do you guys know about what to do to maybe avoid, away from washing your hands? Do you have any hints and tips for everybody of how to prepare for the coronavirus in case they get it, or how to maybe avoid getting it away from washing your hands? Do you have any hints and tips?
Well, I've heard that, of course, it attacks through the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So the best thing to do is get super glue and block up all of those things there. Block up your eyes, your nose, all along your mouth. That's it.
Block your eyes.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, you won't catch coronavirus. In fact, you won't catch anything at all if you follow my stupid advice. But failing that, apple cider vinegar, I've heard it's supposed to be very good.
For for the immune system?
Yeah. Gargle with it because, again, it enters through the throat. And once it enters through the throat, it sits into the lungs. So if you can catch it before it gets into the lungs, that's the best. So even if you get a little tickle, gargle with apple cider vinegar. It's all right to drink a little bit as well, because if you force it into the stomach, the acid in the stomach will kill the virus anyway. Yeah. But once it gets into your lungs, that's where the problem starts.
And lemon water is also good for that.
Yeah, warm lemon water as well. Yeah. Lemon, a bit of garlic in there. Old school, man. Lemon, ginger, garlic, onions. Grate that up. Breathe that in. Little cayenne pepper, hot pepper sauce if you need to. Add some honey to taste, and you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Again, even if you haven't got antibacterial, you should be using the old school things. We never used to have antibac back in the day.
Yes,
so lemon.
Cool. Tell us.
Dettol. Yeah. All of them kind of things. Put it in a jar, squeezy bottle jar. Everything lemon.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with Mr. C there. I think for me it's going to be black seed oil.
Black seed oil.
Yeah, okay. Black seed oil, and the most famous quote about black seed oil was made by the founder of the Muslim religion, Prophet Muhammad, who said, "Black seed oil can cure everything except for death." That's how good black seed oil is. So definitely, I would do
it. Sorry, just a novice like me. What do you do with black seed oil?
Oil, you can put it in a teaspoon and sip it, but it's known to kill bacteria and help with any sort of flu-like symptoms, as well as the traditional stuff that we've grown up with, like Dettol and ginger and stuff like that, Mr. Seaman. But black seed oil is definitely something to have in your medicine cupboard. Again, we spoke off air about what people should do if they found themselves with the symptoms. First of all, obviously, don't panic, don't get scared. You will deal with it really as you deal with the flu. You're not really supposed to call your GP. If you feel ill, you're supposed to just quarantine yourself for about 14 days. And if things get worse, there's a number 111 which you're supposed to call, and then take it from there. But most people, and I've known a few people who've got the symptoms, they've come through it. So it's not a death sentence, but if you just got to be careful, and obviously if you have those symptoms, stay away from people, otherwise they're going to catch it.
Yeah, and I think another important one I heard was that you should take paracetamol instead of ibuprofen. Apparently,
right.
So that's very good to stock up on some paracetamol, just in case you should get any symptoms of that type.
Right.
Okay. Lastly, we're stuck inside quarantine. What are we doing? We're watching Netflix. What's everyone's recommendations? Any Netflix shows that everyone should be watching? Any games? Any brain game? Because I've got a couple brain teaser games on my phone that I actually love going through now. Now I've got the time. I'm there just wrecking the brain at all times. But also, I know a lot of people like to watch Netflix. So what are you guys' recommendations for anything to view, play, watch, whatever. What's your recommendations? Anybody? Take it in turns. Mr. C, come on.
Well, currently on Netflix, I'm catching up with Westworld.
Okay.
With Tandy Newton. So I've been doing that. I'm a big Homeland fan, so I'm up to date with all the Homeland series. My problem is staying awake now. Because by the time I get into the 5th episode, my eye then start thinking, oh gosh, not TV again.
Yeah.
A little bit of reading. I've been doing a little bit of reading. And what I've been doing, you know, so I've got my
Tony, go on. Let's have you take
Right,
over.
okay. So I've just cut down and pretty much cut out most of my TV viewing. Again, because you can't without seeing some advert or something about fear. And is what Mr. C mentioned. Now that you've got the time, now your diary's cleared, do what you've always been putting off. And I've been putting off learning to play a musical instrument, right? So that's gonna. So I expect by the time I come through this, right, I should be able to play some basic chords on the guitar. That's really what I've always been putting it off. I've always had something to do, always had something else going on. But now, look, no excuse. You've got the internet there. You can get free courses that you can follow along. So that's really what I'm doing, as well as catching up on a few books that I've not read.
Yep, and some other ideas. Like a couple of my friends are going to do an online learning a language course. You can enroll it in all sorts of different courses there are out there. And even another little hobby could be to do adult colouring. You know, just little things where you can focus and meditate. Just the simple fact of not going over the lines, it can really relax your mind, or something like a jigsaw, because there's some jigsaw puzzles out there that will have you going for hours.
I tell you what, Terry, I'm missing some adult colouring right now, you know. I tell you, this isolation, mate, I would love to be doing some adult jigsaw puzzling right now, you know. Because we can't get nothing at the moment. Nothing at all. Nothing to fit the puzzle.
Very good point, though. For those quarantining alone, if I can get the words out, what are your tips? What are your tips and advice? Because if you're alone, what do you do in this time?
This is going to be a struggle, isn't it? Because
when you're getting tissue paper, make sure you get baby oil as well.
Do you think this is though, when online dating surely is picking up at this point? No.
But who are you going to meet? You can't meet none. You can't meet none. If apparently the government says that if you're going to go out, right, you can't be in close proximity with somebody you don't live with, and you can't go and visit no one, right? I mean, people are.
This is it.
They're doing FaceTime. They're doing everything by FaceTime now. It's a lot safer. Yeah. You can't catch coronavirus. You can't catch chlamydia either.
Oh, honestly, what about looking after ourselves? Are we we're gonna? There's things like going out for a haircut. You guys, are you guys gonna be just growing the hair out until this is over, or are you gonna be looking after yourselves, doing your man self-care, all the same?
Listen, this hat is not on for fashion.
Oh, because it looked good though. It looks good. It's frozen. What about you, Tony?
No, I think, personally, I mean, personal grooming still has to be, you know, part and parcel of, of your daily life. I think for women it's going to be much harder because, of course, now, you know, they've got much more to be grooming. You know, they've got their nails to do, lashes, and their hair and stuff. And obviously, with the lack of shops open, it'll be interesting to see in a few months' time, you know, how a lot of these beauty queens look. Without all the masks.
The truth will come out, The truth will be revealed.
You know, like, you know, someone that, you know, I was always crazy about, and I'm going to see her, she's going to, you know.
You know what? I've personally decided as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, that I'm going to keep up my beauty regime. Sometimes I'm just going to put on makeup for no reason because there's nowhere to go. But I think it's still important to still maintain a certain level. I'm not I know some of my friends are like, I'm not going to shave, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But I think personally, it'll be a good look to keep up my beauty regime, even though there's nowhere to go. What do you reckon, guys?
Let them girls that stop there. When their children start calling them Spider-Man, when they look at their legs, they'll start shaving again soon. You stop there. Yeah? Mommy, why your legs look like tarantula?
Honestly, it is a bit more harder with kids as well. My kids are small, and I'm telling you already, I'm already shaking a little bit in my boots because I've got 2 boys, and boy, are they energetic. Every minute something, every minute they want to eat me out of house and home. Like when they're at school, they don't eat this much, guys. So the struggle is already there with regards to feeding them and entertaining them. And I just really hope that this does not go on longer than 3 weeks. I'm doing all of this now. Let's see in 3 weeks' time when we come to do What the Week, you might see a different person, boy. Stress.
No, but I'll commend you having your husband there and still feeling the need to keep things up, you know, in terms of your grooming. Commend all the ladies who are doing it. You've got your man there and you still feel the need to do that. The men, really, we should show a lot of appreciation for you, because you could argue, well, I'm not going nowhere, I'm not meeting anybody special, right? Including your husband, right? You're not nobody special. So I'm not going to shave, I'm not going to do the things I normally used to do when I had to go out on road and show myself to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I commend that, and I hope the husbands and the boyfriends who are around can appreciate that actually your missus is doing it for you to enjoy visually, right? For women who don't have a man, of course, I mean, you know, you can pick and choose whether you want to continue doing that. But of course, when you go out one day off because you're going to the butcher's, you're going to meet the man of your dreams, and then you're going to look like Spider-Man. Right, and run him away. So there's a lot of pressure on women to look beautiful. I understand, but I think there should be a basic level in these circumstances, right, that we should adhere to, just for pride, for the sake of personal pride.
I think if you've got a personal standard about yourself, there's no need to just drop it for the sake of the fact that you're going to be indoors and no one's going to see you. If there's a personal standard that you want to hold for yourself, regardless whether you're married or single, I think it's okay to do so, because some people might look and think, oh, you're so extra. Why she got makeup on sitting in her yard? But if one wants to wear makeup and that's what you do, then that's what you should do. But I personally don't always like to wear makeup. But at the same time, I'm not going to let my eyebrows grow a bush. I'm not going to let my legs be super hairy and my armpits be, because that's just not me. So I'm going to try and keep that up. That's me personally. I'm going to try and keep that up.
But always remember, you're being watched 24 hours a day in any case, so you should actually be looking good, because there's so many cameras around.
It's true.
And if you've got smart TV, your smart TV's watching you. So
Mr. C's covered his. He's like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Mr. C, you're right, because your camera is there, right?
Yeah. Listen, I usually have this little thing on. This is the first time I've ever used my on my thing, because I got this little thing. This is what I keep this over mine. Yeah.
Look my tape, my little tape there. Look my tape.
Yeah. Trust me. Yeah.
I've got time for a man to come spy what I'm dealing with. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to be recorded and sent back to me.
Do you know what? There are actually little things that you can get that clip onto your laptop, which look more professional than this, guys. But
yeah, but you know how we say, man. We just make shit.
That's free, isn't it? That's free.
This is arts and crafts. This is arts and crafts that you can do at home at the end of the day. So. Okay, any last words of strengthening advice for anybody watching now who's sitting at home? You know, this is their escapism. They're watching us smile, they're watching us laugh, but at the same time, there's fear inside them, or they're feeling lonely or anything like that. Any words that you want to leave with anybody right now, Mr. C and Tony?
I would say cut down your news watching, please. It's not necessary. You're gonna know what's going on without even watching the news. And also, probably one of my pet peeves: stop forwarding all these fear-mongering information on WhatsApp in your WhatsApp groups. Honestly, it's ridiculous. We have a habit of forwarding information without even checking its source, and create fear and panic amongst each other. These scary videos and these scary, you know. And here's a classic. A lot of us are doing. Yeah, I know someone who's a chief, who's high up in the police, and they say that they're going to be coming around your house with guns.
Yeah.
Stop all that, you know what I mean, rumor mongering. Let's just keep our sources of information to a minimum, and basically in that way we can reduce the fear.
Yeah, definitely. 2 examples of that have been the lady who was fighting with someone for toilet roll. That video was actually from way back in 2012, but that got recycled, like it just happened. And also there was something about dead pigeons on the M25. Someone was saying they've sprayed corona in the air and look, the pigeons are dying. And that also was an old video where pigeons have been on that road since maybe 2010. So we really do need to make sure we filter this fake news that is going around. Mr. C, what do you want to say?
Check everything that's been sent to you before you send it on to anybody else. That's your responsibility. You know what I mean? I'm like you guys. I'm fed up of receiving foolishness from people about, oh yeah, this my good friend, cousin, auntie, cousin, dog said this and blah blah blah. No, it's not true. Yeah, stop forwarding on foolishness. That's it. Most importantly.
Yeah, and I think I want to end on just making sure that people take this a day at a time. And remember, it's okay to not be okay. If you're feeling like that, I think there's many avenues now where you can call up, speak to people. Please share it. Share your feelings with others, because I would hate to think that people are alone just winding and stirring themselves up, because it doesn't result in anything good. So please, even us as people, we need to just be reaching out to people. If you remember you've got a friend who lives alone, or you've got a family member who's alone, just ring them up and say, hey, how you doing? You never know what that form of communication is going to do for them in that moment. So,
sorry, are you telling me to call my exes back then?
I'm saying you better call them back right now. In fact, FaceTime them so that they can see that gorgeous face. How about that?
Can't wait.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us on What a Week. That's it from all of us, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.